This is the Fantasy Huddle. I'm Randy Shaver along with Kevin Gorg. This show is presented by Aquarius Home Services and brought to you by 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. Happy trade deadline day in the NFL. Gorgie and I are recording this at about 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. So there's about an hour left in the NFL trade deadline. However, some big things are happening, including the fire sale that's happening with the Jets, and it may not be over. Breece Hall possibly could get dealt in the next hour as well. But I'll let Gorgie start us off. A couple of big deals done by the Jets today.
Yeah, and it's the right time for them to make this move. I think the biggest fantasy implications come from the Sauce Gardner trade. You know, the Colts are a team that is off to a great start. They're playing with the lead almost every single Sunday, sans last week in Pittsburgh. And so adding Sauce Gardner to a team that's been pretty porous in the secondary, they've given up some points, huge impact there. And then, you know, anytime you look at trade deadline day and you play fantasy football, there are ripple effects with all these moves. And so we knew Jacoby Myers was likely going to get dealt. He asked for the trade out of Las Vegas. I'm not sure about this landing spot. I got to be honest with you. Jacksonville, I don't know.
Travis Hunter's hurt, so I think that's the reasoning behind what the Jags are thinking about doing here.
Well, it's a bummer because Parker Washington had really made some strides. Yep. We talked about him last week. He was a nice daily play.
And he still might.
And he still might be. And Brian Thomas Jr. is still a question mark to play this week. He's dealing with an injury. That's something we'll update on Friday. So we know Jacoby Myers has talent. We know Trevor Lawrence likes to throw the football. They won a crazy game last week, ironically, with the Raiders 30-29. And then obviously Rashid Shaheed is a deep ball threat wherever he is. He's going to land in Seattle now. Doesn't change a thing with JSN. And that's still going to be exactly what it's been, which is one of the best 5 receivers in football. But if you're a Cooper Kupp owner, and then, or if you're a Horton owner, just saw him kind of evolve with a couple touchdowns last week. There's some ripple effects there, and let's just watch and see how it plays out.
So let me just give a few details before we move on. The Gardner trade to the Colts, the Jets get 2 first-round picks, 2026 and 2027. They also get A.D. Mitchell out of the Colts. Then the Jets traded Quinnen Williams, their best player on defense, defensive tackle in the prime of his career, to the Cowboys. And they get a first-round pick in 27 and a second-round pick in 26. So in a matter of minutes, the Jets earned 3 first-round draft choices and a second-round pick. And obviously the Jets feel like this season's over, it's done, and they can completely start over. And they're going to start out with a bunch of draft choices, which gives them a lot of possibilities, I think, come next year. That's a big haul. And it, like I said, it may not be over. Breece Hall has been actually out on social, I think, kind of wishing he's next. So stay tuned for that. And I'm sure Kevin will have an update on Friday after all the dust settles with all the trades. Quick thing about injuries. Tucker Kraft lost for the season with an ACL. Just terrible, awful. Is having a great season, maybe the best tight end in football, arguably. That's too bad. Jaden Daniels, serious left arm injury, likely won't be back for a while.
Right.
Joe Alt lost for the season with an ankle injury. That just hurts that Chargers offensive line something fierce. So some big injuries this week. Just some quick thoughts on that?
Well, I think Chargers first. That's the second significant loss on the line. So you've got to worry about the deep passing game now. You've also got to worry about the running game. Right now, Vidal has been a pretty nice option for people in fantasy, but it's certainly going to have an impact the wrong direction with Alt leaving. He's their very best. And you look at Jaden Daniels. Mariota is an okay option, but not the same football player. And it looks to me like Washington, after a dream run to the NFC Championship last year, is likely going to miss the playoffs. And for all of us, and I have multiple shares of Tucker Kraft, it's time for Luke Musgrave. I still believe in that offense in Green Bay. There is room for a tight end to be relevant. Musgrave, off the bench last week, had 3 for 35. I still think there's potential there, but not the same player as Tucker Kraft,
Right.
not the same production. If he's an A grade player, this is probably a C grade player, but it's someone that can fill a void for you.
All right, let's talk about this week's games. First of all, Cincinnati, Dallas, Tennessee, three of the league's worst defenses all on the bye. So
That's a bummer.
That's a bummer. And Kansas City. So the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Titans, and Kansas City on the bye. We're going to start with the Vikings game. They take on Baltimore. It's a Sunday noon start coming off that huge win against the Lions. Your boy, J.J. McCarthy, had a big day. But Baltimore's got Lamar back. So this is a big game, not just for fantasy, because there's fantasy implications, but for the two teams. This is a monster game, especially when you look at the NFC North, where every team is 500 or better. Nowhere, no other division is even close to that kind of four teams and their records. So this is a monster game on Sunday.
Yeah, and for the Vikings, one of those games where I think you look back at the end of the year and say, if they win this game, probably a catalyst to them being in the playoff conversation. If they don't win this game, might be one of the reasons they miss out. So giant game for the home team. Baltimore, 4-point favorite, over under around 48. And I think there are going to be points in this game. I'll start on the Baltimore side. Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Flowers are all must starts. Don't even think about it. Pop them in there. The big question mark whenever you play Baltimore in fantasy is, what do you do with the tight ends, Likely and Andrews? Andrews got the touchdowns last time out. I don't like either one consistently, but in daily, if you want to take a swing, they're there for you. Do note that your guy, Randy Laporta, had a huge game against this defense last week.
So dinner's going to be sweet at the end of the year.
I'm sure it is. And the Joker just continues to sit on the sidelines, which is part of the bet. And I understand that. But again, if you want to pop one of those guys in and take a swing in one of your daily lineups, there's, I think, room for some touchdowns against this defense. J.J. McCarthy was good. He was better in terms of football than he was in terms of fantasy, but he looked the part, and that's the big thing right now for Minnesota. I think he's startable here. I'm not expecting a blow-up game, but I think he'll be solid. The question mark is still in the backfield, where they're telling us that Aaron Jones' injury is not significant, and he has a chance to play. Truthfully, if you play fantasy and you've got the other guy, Mason, you're kind of hoping he gets the lion's share, but it looks like, again, it could be a split backfield. Jefferson and Addison are both must starts. Jefferson, to me, is sitting on a big game. This is a matchup where I think he's going to really pop. And then Hawkinson scored a touchdown last week. I think JJ and Hawkinson have some chemistry, so he's startable. I like the over here, Randy. If I'm looking at this and looking at daily fantasy with receivers on bye like we have right now, Rashee Rice in Kansas City, the two studs in Dallas with Pickens and Lamb, and of course T. Higgins, and the best of all, Jamar Chase. This is a game where if you're playing daily fantasy, I would look at this game. I like over 48 for sure.
All right, let's move on. I'll take the Thursday night game. It's Vegas against Denver. Numbers 42.5. The Broncos are a monster favorite at 10.5, and likely they'll win that game by much more than that. Brock Bowers is back. 43 fantasy points in his first game back, which is great. But Vegas still lost a terrible game to Jacksonville in overtime. So when I look at this game, I don't like anybody on the Vegas side. I just don't. The Broncos defense at home, just too good. I don't think they'll need a fourth quarter comeback in this game. I think they're going to be just fine. Yes, Brock Bowers, if he's on your roster, play him. Yes, if you got Genty, play him. But if you're looking to somebody on that side of the game to get you a ton of points in daily, I just don't think it's there. On the Denver side, I really like the Denver defense in this game. I think if you've got a defense, or you can play a defense, or you can buy a defense, I think that's the defense to play. And I think the number proves that at 42.5 and a 10.5 point favorite. So that's what I got on that game. I think Bo Nix is the best player in that game to play, and I love the Denver defense against Vegas. All right, let's move on. Atlanta versus the Colts. This game is in Germany, starts at 8:30 on Sunday morning.
Yeah, kind of a fun matchup for our Sunday morning pleasure. And Atlanta is Jekyll and Hyde. You never know what team you're going to get. They get blown out at home by Miami. Then they go to New England, who's red hot, and take them to the wire. I can't figure them out.
You can't trust them.
No, and Penix is a quarterback that fits that mold. Like, he is boomer bust. He's got this big ceiling because he can run, he can clearly throw, and he throws in these clunkers like that Miami game. So if you've got Penix, it's an all or nothing proposition. I think there'll be points in this game. Over unders 48.5. Indy is nearly a 7-point favorite. So clearly Atlanta's going to have to throw the football a little bit. Bijan Robinson's a stud. I don't need to talk about that. He's a must start every single week. Drake London blew up at New England with 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Huge game. Certainly Indy's going to pay a lot of attention to him. And now with the addition of Sauce Gardner, we'll see how that plays out. But London still is an absolute stud. Pitts has quietly been a relevant tight end. And for a lot of us, the last couple of years that have taken our lumps with Kyle Pitts because he's such a specimen, he's gotten to a good place right now in a good rhythm with this offense, and Penix throws him the football. So I think he's startable in a game where they're likely going to be playing from behind. On the Indy side, Daniel Jones continues to produce. He is a must start every single week. And if you want to stack him this week with a guy like Pittman or their tight end Warren, I think they're both guys that could see a lot of volume in a game where they might, the total points might be well into the 50s here. Jonathan Taylor, a rare game without a touchdown last week. That's not going to last. I would think this week, anytime touchdown is a cinch against Atlanta. And then what do you do on the back end with these sneaky receivers like Downs and Pierce? Both had big games last week. I don't think they're consistent for season long, but they're kind of a fun boomer bust play in daily. And if you're going to play that game on a Sunday morning, I would consider both Pierce and Downs as dart throws, but stick with the basic 4, starting with Daniel Jones. I think it goes over the total, 48.5. I think there'll be points here.
All right. Giants at Chicago. This is a noon start. Love this game. 48.5 is the number. The Bears are a 3.5-point favorite. The Giants aren't the Bengals, but a good offense can smoke them, I think, and the Giants can do some damage on the other side too. So even without their 2 big weapons in Neighbors and Scatterboo, I still think the Giants are capable of putting points on the board. The Bears, with that amazing win at Cincinnati, if you're a Bengals fan, you've had your heart ripped out twice, week after week. They scored 38 plus 2 weeks in a row and lost both games, which is unbelievable. Anyway, on the Giants side, Singletary got more snaps than Tracy, and you've been talking about it, and somewhat surprising. So the backfield is muddled. I don't really like either one of those guys. I can't trust either one. Don't know who's going to get the volume on a given Sunday. But Jackson Dart is a play. And I think Jackson Dart on the Giants side, and if you stack him, sure, Robinson, Theo Johnson, not as strong, but I still think that you can play him. But Dart naked, I think is a play. I really do. The Bears, you were right about Caleb Williams last week. And actually in daily, I played a lot of Caleb Williams last week. I played him, unfortunately, with Odunze.
So did I, Randy. I was just going to say that's unbelievable.
Just a bust. I mean, 0 catches. 9%.
Dropped the touchdown right in his hands.
Yeah, 9% target share. It is so frustrating when you know they're going to have a big day throwing the football, and he's supposedly our receiver 1.
Yep.
And he's not there. It's just not there. But they still won, and that's all they care about, obviously. Yep. So Caleb, yes, both defenses aren't very good. This game should go back and forth, conceivably. I do like him. DJ Moore stepped up, had a nice game last week, and certainly is capable. The guy that stepped up is Loveland. And I know in my Empire League, I drafted Loveland and held on to him, hoping that we could maybe see the breakout, and hopefully that is the breakout game.
Man, he looked good.
He did. Here's a stat for you. The Bengals defense has allowed 12 touchdowns to tight ends. No other team in the NFL has allowed more than 6. So
keep an eye on that second half.
As you move forward. Anytime you're playing the Bengals and you've got a tight end to play the tight end for sure. The running back, Kyle Monange, is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Capable. Play him. Swift is questionable this week, so keep an eye on that injury status, and Kevin will have an update on Friday. But bottom line is, all the Bears are playable, and you should consider this game. because 48.5, I think the number is too low. I think this could be a little bit of a shootout in Chicago, especially if the Giants can find a way with their passing game against the Bears. So, again, Caleb Williams is probably my top play in the game overall. I do love Jackson Dart as a different kind of play, maybe, but certainly this game overall has a lot of potential in fantasy. Let's go on to Buffalo and Miami. Noon start. Kevin's got that.
Yeah, this figures to be a one-sided affair. The only thing you worry about on the Buffalo side is a bit of a letdown off a huge win against Kansas City. They're a 9-point favorite in Miami. The over-under is 50.5. They're expecting points. I think a majority of the points going to be scored by Buffalo. So we'll start there. Josh Allen, he might be QB1 this year when the dust settles overall. No brainer. James Cook, I think, is going to get a ton of work in this game. Miami really struggles against the run, and James Cook is an electric back, so he's a really good play in daily.
Well, remember, we said that when they played Atlanta.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And Bijan was terrible,
which made no sense.
I know.
You're right. Algier did score in that game, but Miami overall this year has been a sieve, and I think Buffalo is going to be well ahead, so Cook should get some work. Dalton Kincaid continues to evolve into one of the top tight end plays, and with Tucker Kraft now out for the year, this is a guy that could sneak into the top 5 conversation because Josh Allen loves him. Some Dalton Kincaid over 100 yards last week, another touchdown, a red zone target. My favorite receiver, if you're going to stack Josh Allen, that's the guy I'm stacking him with. Of the wideouts, still Khalil Shakir is the safest. He disappointed me last week. I expected much better than 43 yards and 4 catches against Kansas City, but he's the one guy I might lean on. For Miami, I don't know what you do. They can't finish drives. They've been great between the 20s in the last couple of weeks, but they're not scoring points. Tua in a pinch, okay, sure, you can start him, but I don't love the play. Achane is still a guy that week in, week out is just all about catching the ball.
Yep.
He goes combined over 100. He catches 5, 6, 7 balls every week, and he'll find his way into the end zone. Waddle and Malik Washington are the receivers. Waddle, the safer play. Malik Washington, a bit of a boomer bust type of guy that's starting to get some run. Right. But again, Miami probably gets beat pretty handily here. I do not like the over in this game. I think it's going to be a one-sided game. I think Buffalo's going to drain the clock in the second half. I've got kind of that 34-10 type of game, but play the Bills and then sprinkle in Achane is my call here, Randy.
And keep in mind, we are recording this on Tuesday afternoon, about 40 minutes before the trade deadline.
Good point.
And Waddle could be dealt. That's a possibility between now and the time that we get done. All right, very good. Cleveland at the Jets. This is simple. I'm going to say nothing. There's absolutely nothing here.
Well,
now,
come on, hold on. You got your running back in Cleveland. That's your guy.
He's the only one, and he's questionable, I would consider, and especially since the Jets made a couple of big trades decimating their defense. Yes, I think the Browns are the better side of this, but the Browns defense is way too good. There's just nothing here that I can say with any confidence whatsoever, even Quinshawn, with any confidence that you can play in this football game. The number's 37.5.
I'd go under.
The Jets, yes, the Jets are a 1.5 favorite. That could change after all the trades made today. This looks like a 13-10 game for me. And if you play kickers, the kickers may end up being the better choices in this football game. So that's all I got on that one. Let's go to New England and Tampa Bay. It's a noon start. Kevin's got that.
Yeah, one of the best games on the schedule this weekend, no doubt about it. Tampa, 2.5-point pick on the point spread market. 48.5 is the total. You've got relevant fantasy players all over the board here, including Drake May, who's having a Cinderella season. Let's just say it, in the conversation for MVP. Fantasy-wise, comes off kind of an off performance last week. I expect a bounce back by Drake May. His go-to targets continue to be kind of a mixed bag, but Stephon Diggs, former Viking, certainly at the top of that list if I'm going to stack a wide receiver. Demario Douglas with booty banged up and a question mark. Douglas got some, hate to say it, some pop last week in his game.
He could be sneaking daily too. He's cheap.
He's really cheap. And of course, Hunter Henry's the tight end. the backfield, it's fun if Henderson is the solo back, but they're mixing up now with Ramondre Hurt, rookie getting some looks. It's just not a backfield, Randy, that I look to play at all in season long or daily. I avoid the New England backfield. It's way too muddy. I focus on man as targets, and I think Douglas might be the direction I go this week. On the Tampa side, Baker Mayfield off the bye. He should be fresh. He should be ready to go. His go-to guy, Ibuka, finally now a little time to maybe mend up. He's been kind of banged up all year off the bye. I expect him to have a big game. Tez Johnson, sneaky wide receiver that's getting some run while the big names are, Evans and Godwin are out, and Cade Otton, the tight end. In the backfield, it's this simple. If Bucky Irving is out and he's still a question mark, then you fire up Rashid White. If Bucky Irving goes, then he's the guy you want. Right. Keep an eye on that. We'll update that on Friday. I think it goes over the 48.5. This is a game I want to definitely focus on in daily.
All right.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Aquarius Home Services takes water treatment to an all-star level with the Connecticut water treatment system. And now get up to 25% off with 6-month no payments and no interest financing for qualified buyers. It's a great deal for worry-free water for drinking, worry-free water for cleaning, laundry, showers, dishes, and more. And all of this with on-demand efficiency that uses zero electricity. Trust me, it is life-changing. Find out more at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one-stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure about, 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Let's go to New Orleans, Carolina. This is a noon start. The number's 40.5, and the Panthers are a 5.5 point favorite. On the Saints side, you could play Olave, you can play Kamara, you can play Juwan Johnson. I don't like any of them in this game. And the Panthers are 5-4. I mean,
that was a legit win.
Quietly right now, they're a playoff contending team. So I think we got to give them their props. They won a huge game in Green Bay. And the Saints are so going the opposite way. There just isn't anything there that I like. In fact, I like the Carolina defense this week if I'm playing daily, because I think they have a chance to, and the enthusiasm and excitement right now in Carolina is definitely there because they have made quite the turnaround. On the other side, Rico Dowdle. I screwed up in a bunch of my teams this last week in my season long. I have other really decent running backs, and I decided not to play Dowdle. It scared me, split backfield, and I got totally burned by it. Dumb. I knew that I should have played Dowdle at least a few of my games that I didn't. He had a couple of touchdowns. He outsnapped Hubbard 42-13, over 100 yards. The first Packer or first running back against the Packers to get over 100 yards this year. So he's a real deal. You got to play him now. I think it's pretty legit now. And now that Carolina's winning, I think you're going to see them stick with the hot hand at this point and play the guy that's doing all that work. And the good thing about what Carolina's doing is that Bryce is only throwing the ball about 25 times a game. They want that. They don't want him to have to throw 40 to 45 because bad things happen when that happens. So I like Dowdle this week. The spread to me is not high enough. I think the Panthers win by more than 5.5. I'm not sure about the over under. I don't see it going much higher than 40.5. But I do like Carolina. I love Dowdle. I think he's the best play in this game. And I do love the Carolina defense on daily this week against the Saints. All right, let's go to Jacksonville and Houston. It's the final noon game on Sunday.
Yeah, another low total. I think you really got to pick your spots this week with the amount of great fantasy players on bye. There are games to avoid, and this, Randy, might be one of them in daily that I look to maybe take a step back and avoid. 37.5 is the total. Houston favored by 1.5. They just played that 18-15 game in a loss against Denver. They've got a terrific defense, and I think this is going to be a tight, divisional, low-scoring, typical kind of game. So Trevor Lawrence in season long, if you own him and you've got another issue at quarterback, maybe you had Jaden Daniels, okay, fine, you can start him. Maybe he'll sneak one in, maybe he'll throw one, but I'm not expecting a big game. Travis Etienne, the running back, getting sniped by Tootin now, so Etienne to me is a good, not great option. And then you look at, we mentioned the injury to Brian Thomas Jr. He's a question mark into the weekend, so we don't know with him. Parker Washington is getting some real steam, but with the addition of Jacoby Myers, I don't know how that plays out. I am not playing any Jacksonville Jaguars against this monster defense from Houston when it comes to daily fantasy. On the Houston side, we have a concussion at the quarterback position. C.J. Stroud certainly in the protocol, still a question mark. No one's looking forward to Davis Mills playing in real football or in fantasy. Avoid that like the plague if you can, including, speaking of the plague, how about the running backs? Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. No and no in any circumstance. Don't do that to yourself. And you've got Nico Collins. He's a must start. He's a stud. If there's a relevant fantasy player in this game, his name is Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz, sneaky tight end with some good tight ends on bye like Travis Kelce. I can see that. But again, a low number here. I'm expecting a low scoring game.
I think the best players in this game are Cam Little and Fairbairn. Yeah. I think those are the best players in this game. Play the damn kickers.
Yeah, you're right.
Seriously. I mean, he kicked a 68-yarder last week for the NFL record. He can boot it over 70. Just play the kickers because
the rest of it.
That's where the points are coming from. All right. Arizona, Seattle, 3:00 start. 44.5 is the number. Seattle's a 6.5 favorite. Obviously, the Cardinals had a monster win on Monday night in Dallas. They're now 3-5. I saw Kyler Murray standing around on the sidelines. Don't play the guy. Just let Brissett play. To me, he's just doing much better with this offense than Kyler. 3 touchdown passes against the Cowboys. Seattle's defense obviously is way better than the Cowboys. So it's going to be tough sledding, I think, for Arizona. Trey McBride still gets the numbers, gets the volume, got a touchdown. If you've got him on your team, play him, but there isn't. And I know Marvin Harrison is there. I don't trust him. I just don't think he's consistent enough. And their running game's garbage. So there's just nothing there that thrills me in this game. In fact, I think that number is too high. I kind of like the under in this game because I think the Seattle defense is that good. On the other side, Sam Darnold, man, if you drafted Sam, good for you. Yes. If you picked him up early in the season on the waivers and held him, good for you, because he is playing fantastic almost MVP like football for Seattle. So play him. Obviously, they made a trade. They picked up Shaheed. JSN is still the guy, as Kevin said earlier. Torrey Horton did get some work, and he got a couple of touchdowns, but it's kind of like we don't know what Shaheed does to his production, but it doesn't do anything to JSN. To me, you stack Darnold with JSN. You play them both. The running game is too much garbage. It's split. Yeah. Walker's probably still the guy, but there's just not enough there. The only thing I'll say about the running game is if Seattle gets a lead, they're likely going to just run the clock because they're not a team that blows it up and scores a ton of points. So you'll likely get a touchdown or two on the ground. It's just who do you feel the most comfortable with when you select a running game. And I do like the Seattle defense in this game just because they're at home. They got a lot to play for. They're a really good football team. And I think they'll be ahead. And so that works in your favor when you're playing a defense. So that's what I like in that game. The Rams at San Francisco, kind of a fun game, 325, and Kevin's got that one.
Yeah, in a week of fantasy football where there are at least 4 games with totals of 40 or below on the over-under side, this is another potentially big, important game in daily fantasy. And if you have these players in season long, you're licking your chops. They played about a month ago, and there were a ton of points scored. It was a great football game. I expect the same here. I expect a really good game. I expect some fantasy points. Over-under in that high 40s. So I think this could be an over game where it goes into the 50s. Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. He's another guy in the MVP conversation. He plays so well every week. And the one trend we're noticing, and I own Kyren Williams in a bunch of leagues, is when they get in the red zone, Kyron's not the guy they're looking to. They are throwing the football to Devontae Adams. It is a much more comfortable play for whatever reason for this offense. And Kyren got one in garbage time last week. And it used to be as recent as last year.
Yeah.
He'd get it every single time. But now with Devontae Adams, pay attention because that is a trend that I think is worth watching. Stafford must start. Kyren, though, still gets the volume play. He's a stud back on a team that wins. And obviously Puka Nacua. Those are the 4 guys you want to focus on. Don't overthink it. Get your stack going somehow, some way with 2 or 3 of those players. On the San Francisco side, they keep telling us Brock Purdy's progressing, but it continues to not be Brock Purdy under center Mac Jones, and Mac has been pretty damn good. So he's startable in fantasy, especially this week with some of the quarterbacks on bye. Christian McCaffrey, no-brainer. He's going to get some looks, especially in the red zone. Juwan Jennings is maybe starting to get a little healthier. When this guy's healthy, Randy, he's a good player, and someone's got to catch the football with Ricky Pearsall, frustratingly, still on the sidelines, especially for me. I've got him in like 6 different leagues. Kittle must start, stud tight end, but again, they use him so much in the run block that the red zone gets a little bit more McCaffrey and a little bit less George Kittle. I keep writing down Ricky Pearsall, questionable. I've done it for over a month. I keep thinking this might be the week. We'll update you on Friday, but as of right now, Juwan Jennings is the only receiver I can start. San Fran and LA, I like the over here. I think we're going to see points into the 50s.
All right, let's move on to Detroit and Washington. It's the last game on the slate, the main slate for FanDuel. The number's 51.5. The Lions are a 3.5 point favorite. Now, I don't know if that took into account Jaden Daniels' injury. So that may change that line a little bit. I love the Lions here in obvious reasons because Washington is a mess right now. They're cooked. Let's just be honest. They're cooked. They're not going to do much. I'm a little surprised they haven't done anything on the trade deadline to this point. And like I said, we're recording. It's around 2:30 on Tuesday right now. They haven't done anything yet. I don't know if they feel like they've got a shot to make the postseason, but the way the NFC is stacking up with all these teams, there's a ton of teams with 5-6 wins already. I just don't see how Washington gets in there. So let's start with the Lions. Whatever ailed them against the Vikings, and they did not play overly well, I think they get well this week in Washington. Goff, only 2 games this season with 20 or more standard fantasy points. That's a little low. Last year, he had 7 of those kind of games. So look for them to get back on track. And I do love golf. I love stacking him with St. Brown and Laporta. I think that's the move. Gibbs got kind of out-touched last week by Montgomery. That's just a recipe for disaster, if you ask me, for Detroit. So I think you'll see that get switched around this week too. I really think Detroit gets up on them early, and they'll probably maybe play a little bit more conservative, which means Gibbs and Montgomery will get quite a bit of action. But early on, and you know what? Dan Campbell may say, you know what? No, we're going to work on our passing game. We're going to work on some things here, even if they get a lead, a bigger lead against Washington. So I love the Lions of this one. Play as many as you want because I think they're going to get healthy or get well. The number is high, so Vegas is saying Washington's going to score points. I don't see that. Their wide receiver thing, it's a mess. Their running backs are a mess. Zach Ertz is maybe the only guy I would even consider, but I just don't see where all these points are coming from on the Washington side. Maybe I'm wrong. I know the Lions defense has had its ups and downs this year, but I just think Washington's a mess. So for me, there's nobody on the Washington side I can trust with Jaden not playing. And even when Jaden was playing, I didn't feel like I could trust a lot either. So I'm all in on the Lions this week. Again, that number is 51.5. So play the Washington side with caution, because I just don't think that's the smartest play of the week for sure. Let's move on to Sunday night. It's the Steelers against the Chargers, and Kevin's got that game.
Yeah, huge game in terms of the AFC playoff picture. These are two teams that likely are going to be right down to the wire to get in the playoffs. So this is a huge, huge moment in time for both these outfits. 3.5-point favorites are the Chargers. Over-unders 44.5, so kind of a lower total. And that's kind of how I see the game. I think this is going to be a little bit of a smackdown, grinded out type of game. Aaron Rodgers, can you start him? Absolutely. But again, I don't see this game being a 35-31, crazy back and forth game. So temper your affections there. I can see a couple touchdown passes though. Jaylen Warren is the stud running back that nobody talks about, that produces every single week. He ends up around 15 to 20 fantasy points because he catches 4 to 6 balls, and he's the guy in Pittsburgh. So I like Jaylen Warren every week. DK Metcalf with an absolute disaster of a game last week. I think he'll get a little bit of a bounce back. Maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak, but there's nobody else I want. They've got another tight end mess. They've got 4 different tight ends that are catching the football. The big guys, Muth, Jonnu Smith, and the big Washington kid. I don't want any of them in fantasy because they just kind of cancel each other out. Herbert is fine. A lot like Aaron Rodgers. I expect 1 or 2 touchdown passes. I don't expect a blow-up game. Vidal, the running back, is the guy you want right now in the backfield, but with the offensive line, the injury that Randy talked about with Alt, I don't know if there's a path to great success, even against a defense like Pittsburgh, which has really struggled. The injuries might be the great equalizer. Gadsden's the guy I'm going to use in daily. Yes. The tight end for the Chargers is just sitting on another huge game. Pittsburgh, terrible in the secondary. I think Gadsden has a game. Ladd McConkey, Quinshon Johnston, and Keenan Allen. You know what? Every week it seems like it's another guy. If you make me pick one, I'm always going to go to Ladd McConkey. He's got the biggest upside or highest ceiling. But in a game where I don't think I'm going under here. I don't think it's going to go over 44.5. I'm going to focus on the tight end for the Chargers and maybe the running back for Pittsburgh. And that's where my affections lie in a game that I think is 20-17 type of game.
All right. Last game of the week is the Monday night game, Philadelphia at Green Bay. It's a 45.5 number, Green Bay 2.5. The Eagles are coming off a bye going into Green Bay. So I like the Eagles side here. Jalen Hurts, I think, is very playable. Not only can he score with the tush push, but he can throw the ball, and he has been throwing the ball with a lot of success lately. Saquon's a little banged up. He's still questionable coming into this week. I think he'll play. He may have a little bit of tough sledding against Green Bay, but I think the Philly pieces interest me a lot more than Green Bay does in this game. And the number may be too low. I'm going to play the Eagles. I'll probably stack Hurts with Devontae, or maybe even with the tight end Goddard. I just think the pieces for Philadelphia. It's a big game for both teams. Both teams are in this NFC chase, which is going to be crazy down the stretch because there's so many really good teams. There's going to be a couple of really good teams that don't make the playoffs in the NFC, I think, because it is that stacked. On the Green Bay side, losing Tucker Kraft is just shattering for this offense. And you talked about Musgrave. Sure, you could throw him in there if you want to. I just think that Josh Jacobs, who's still nursing a calf injury, is the best play. But his backups got 32 of the 65 snaps last week too. So that's something to consider. And to me, the Packers offense, I can't trust it. I can't trust who's going to do what other than Jacobs. And I trusted Kraft. He's not there anymore. So what do you do? Dobbs, Watson, I don't know. It's a mess for me fantasy wise. So I'm going to stick with the Eagles side of this game. It's a good football game. I don't know if it's a great fantasy game, but it's a really important football game. And because of that, I think you're going to see it a little bit more conservative. I know the number's 45.5. I kind of see this game about that number. I don't see a blowout. I don't see both teams going crazy.
No, I agree.
Probably going to be like a 24-20 kind of a
playoff
game.
feel, right? Because home field advantage might be on the line. Like the team that wins this game might have the inside track to home field advantage in the playoffs. So I'm with you. I think it's going to have much more of a playoff feel.
I think that's the best way to describe what this game is going to be. So play it with some caution, but on my side, it's the Eagles. And again, it's not on the main slate. So it's kind of a game by itself. So you can kind of pick and choose it's a different mindset where you're playing a single game entry. So good luck with that one.
The Eagles just acquired Michael Carter from the Jets. The Jets continue to make moves.
Do you think the Jets will trade Namath before it's over today?
Susie Kober is watching closely.
All right, let's move on to our PPR lineups for this week. And I'll start. I love Josh Allen this week for Buffalo, but I really like Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs for me and St. Brown are the two guys I want in this game against Washington, because I just think Detroit is going to be on a mission this week after losing that football game to the Vikings, and they need a spot to get well, and I think this is the spot. I like Achane this week. I know Kevin talked about it. Buffalo, it's a tough game. But when I look around the volume, when I look around the running backs, the volume is there. And so I like Achane, and I also like Dowdle this week because I think the volume is there. And I think Carolina's mindset is so totally different than what it's been 9 games into a season for the last few years. So Dowdle's emerged. I like him as my flex in this lineup. I'm going to go back to Odunze because I think.
Oh boy.
Well, Kayla. First of all, I love the Bears in this game at home. You can't. It's easy in fantasy to judge one game and let that be the game that, and you lose sight of the bigger picture. And I do that a lot. I'm not going to do that this week. I'm going to go back to Odunze. I think the Bears will go back to Odunze. I think this is a storyline in Chicago this week. So I'm going to play Odunze at receiver, and I love your pick about Kincaid. I think stacking Allen and Kincaid together in that Buffalo-Miami game is the way to go. So my PPR lineup, Josh Allen at quarterback, Gibbs and Achane at running backs, Odunze and Brown. I love Dalton Kincaid this week at tight end, and my flex would be Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, we don't have one match here, and that's okay. I try to find games off the main slate because we've got our main lineup coming next. But I will tell you, I know you love Jalen Hurts this week, and he's my quarterback in PPR. he's such a safe play, Randy, because he
Yep.
always seems to throw a couple of touchdown passes, and he always seems to get at least one of those tush-push touchdowns, and you're already at 3, and in the big weeks, you can hit 4 or 5. So Hurts, to me, is one of the most safe plays you can play at that position. I went with Jacobs to start in PPR for this reason. The red zone proficiency of a guy like Tucker Kraft taken out of the lineup is going to shine the light on Jacobs. He can catch the ball in the red zone. He can certainly run the ball in the red zone, and I think his production sees a little bit of an uptick, and that's scary if you're playing against him in fantasy. I went with Ashton Jeanty, and I'll say this. The Broncos defense is fantastic, but 2 weeks ago on this same football field, I watched Javonte Williams go for over 150 combined yards and multiple touchdowns, and I think Genty's at least his equal in terms of talent. This young kid caught a 19-yard pass last week. He's coming of age, and I think the Raiders are going to be in chase mode, and I think Genty's going to be a part of it, so I'll use him. On the flip side, you hit the nail on the head when you had your Bronco assessment. Cortland Sutton is a stud, and he is the guy that Bo Nix looks to every single time in the red zone. So he's the guy you want in Denver. I'll use him. And I know Drake London had a blow-up game, and I know I'm going right back to him, and it might be dangerous, but he's so good. And I look at the chemistry he has with Penix, and I love the big body against most defensive players. So I'm going to go back to Drake London. Speaking of big bodies, my tight end is the kid in LA with the Chargers, Gadsden. I think he's just phenomenal, and I think we're just scratching the surface with him. And at flex, I'll go to the safest play every week in fantasy, except for last week, and that's Jonathan Taylor. A rare dud game on a really good football team who plays from in front and likes to run the ball. Taylor's a safe play. So I've got Hurts at quarterback. Jeanty and Jacobs are my running backs. Sutton and London are my big-bodied receivers. Gadsden's my tight end. My flex is Jonathan Taylor.
All right, let's move on to our daily fantasy lineups using FanDuel pricing. And I'll start. I'm all in on the Bears this week. I'm all in. So Caleb Williams at quarterback, 7,400. Oh,
okay. No, I've got my Bears hat on. I'm the Caleb Williams whisperer.
DJ Moore at 64 and Odunze at 76. So I am stacking the Bears on my fantasy team this week for daily against the Giants. I think the Bears are going to be super hyped after winning that game in crazy fashion against Cincinnati. They can smell this thing now. They know that this thing is going in their direction. So yeah. I love them this week. I also love the Lions this week. So I'm in on Jahmyr Gibbs at 8,800. It's a lot. I get it. It's a lot, but Washington's a mess. And Detroit needs to get it right. So I'm going to go with Gibbs and Laporta. Laporta will be my tight end. Because I'm spending that kind of money, I need to kind of look around a little bit. I do like Dowdle, and I'm playing him at 8,000 in that Carolina game. So Wan'Dale Robinson for the Giants is my bring back in the Bears game. Because if it's going to be 48.5, the Giants are going to have to find a way to score. And so I'm going to go with Wan'Dale. He's only 6,000. And my flex player is the guy that you talked about, Kevin, is Parker Washington with Jacksonville.
Yes.
I'm going to go with, in a very low scoring game, I'm going to cross my fingers that he ends up being the guy, at least for a touchdown and maybe 5 catches and 75 yards, something like that. And my defense is Carolina. That's the defense I love at 3,600. So here's my fantasy lineup on FanDuel this week. Caleb Williams at 7,400, Jahmyr Gibbs at 88, Rico Dowdle at 8, DJ Moore at 6,400, Wan'Dale Robinson at 6, Odunze at 7,600, my tight ends Laporta at 6,400, Parker Washington's my flex at 5,600, and the Carolina defense at 3,600. I am all in on the Bears and the Lions this week.
I love it. I'm going to start my main lineup with your guy, smiling, slinging Sammy Darnold, off that awesome performance at Washington, back home against Arizona. Big game, big home field advantage. I love Sam Darnold this week at 7,500. And yes, of course, I'm going to stack him with one of the best receivers in fantasy football. I'm going to spend $9,500 on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm calling for multiple touchdowns for the stud receiver. I'm calling for another Darnold 4-touchdown game, and I'm stacking those two guys. Because I spent that money, I had to go cheap with my other two receivers, And with the trades today, I had to shuffle the deck. I'm going Tez Johnson for Tampa Bay with the big injuries and with Egbuka likely seeing the extra coverage. I think Tez Johnson sitting on a nice game quietly at 5,800, and I'll flip it right around. Demario Douglas off the 100-yard game for New England last week with Drake May feeling it. I'll come right back with Douglas on the other side. That means I cannot go crazy in the backfield. So I'm going to go with the other Detroit Lion running back, David Montgomery. He's had 2 big games in fantasy this year. In both those games, his team won by 24 points or more. And I agree with you, Randy. I think Detroit pounds Washington. I think both their running backs get in the end zone. So I'll take Montgomery. And I've got Kyle Monange. And I'm going to keep an eye on Swift. Obviously, if Swift plays, I'll have to make a switch. But if he's the guy, he was so good last week in Cincinnati. And I think he'll be even better against the Giants team who stinks against the run. Montgomery, 6,100. Monangai, 6,500. Now we'll go to tight end. Dalton Kincaid is my guy. I've talked him up. He's pretty cheap too, 6,200 in a game where I think he gets a lot of looks in the red zone. My flex guy is your flex guy, Rico Dowdle, $8,000 against the New Orleans team that's already waved the white flag. They don't care. And my favorite play on this whole incredible daily team, as I know you're going to like this, the gift that keeps on giving, the New York Football Jets. I'm going to the Cleveland Browns. Yes, $4,600. I think they get in the end zone. That's my team. Darnold, 7,500 at quarterback. Montgomery and Monangai at 6,100 and 6,500 are in the backfield. My most expensive player is Jackson Smith and Jigba at 9,500. He'll pay that back with a couple of TDs. Tez Johnson's 5,800. Demario Douglas is only 5,600. Kincaid, my tight end, is 6,200. Dowdle, 8,000. Cleveland, 4,600. Let's have a day.
Oh, boy. That's going to be a fun lineup.
I love it.
All in on Seattle. Who would have guessed that when the season started?
Well, I'll take it a step further. I'm all in on Carolina. I'm alive in 2 of my survivor pools.
So are we.
If you would have told me in August that I would be alive near Thanksgiving and leaning on Carolina, I might have gone to a bridge and taken a swan dive. Like, can you believe we're here? We're in November, and Carolina's my survivor pick.
Oh, my God. That's awesome. All right. Thanks, Gorgie, very much. And thanks for watching, everybody. Fantasy Huddle is presented by Aquarius Home Services, brought to you by 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. Good luck to everybody this week, and we'll be back next Tuesday with more Fantasy Huddle. Good luck.